Hello and welcome to the Vaults of Terra. My name is Ed and today we're going to be continuing our Horus Heresy videos with a quick look at Malcador the Sigillite. Now Malcador was a prominent figure in the early Imperium. He was not a Primarch, merely a man, but in many ways he wielded far more power than the Primarchs, with some saying he held power second only to the Emperor in life. His other titles included being the First Lord of Terra, Grand Master of the Imperial Assassins, and founder of the Imperial Administratum. He was also a powerful psyker, his power achieving a great many things in his time. Only the Emperor knows the true origin of Malcador, for the man himself was secretive. Malcador once admitted though that he was a surviving member of an ancient order known as the Sigillites, who sought out and preserved the greatest and most powerful artifacts known in human history. His first official appearance is during the Unification Wars on Terra before the Great Crusade, serving as the Emperor's closest advisor. The original site of his order became the centre of the Imperial Palace. He was a thin and haggard-looking man who was regularly hooded and cloaked in pale robes, bearing a staff of office and hiding his massive psychic might and strength beneath a frail appearance. Malcador travelled far and wide as the Emperor's representative, acting in his stead and giving the Emperor time to work on his own projects, with the Emperor's intervention only being needed if the Sigillite failed in his task. An example was when he represented the Emperor during the shaming of Lorgar on Monarchica. In a show of his own power, he was actually slapped by the enraged Lorgar 20 meters through the air, landing heavily. However, he survived the Primarch's blow easily, and stood up with only a few broken bones, leaving Lorgar even further ashamed by his assault on his father's trusted advisor and showing the power that Malcador could wield in the face of a demigod like a Primarch. It was also rumoured that Malcador presented the Chaplain Edict to the Space Marine Legions, creating Marines of strong moral fibre who would maintain the Legion's morale, discipline and examine for the usage of psychic powers which were banned in the Council of Nearchia. Now, soon after the heresy began, Malcador was ordered by the Emperor to gather, and I quote, "men of character, skill and determination." These men were needed to become investigators, uncovering corruption and treachery within the Imperium, and being given by the Emperor infinite power to investigate these crimes. It also involved gathering Space Marines who had rejected their Legion's heresy and remained loyal to the Emperor, such as Death Guard Nathaniel Garrow and Captain Ichdon Cruez of the Sons of Horus. Malcador would get Garrow to recruit more of these individual Marines, forming Malcador's Knights Errant. Malcador used Cruez as his hand, investigating matters on his behalf, whilst he focused on keeping the Imperial government together during the heresy, while assisting Rorgal Dawn in shoring up the defences of Sol and Terra. Malcador also used his secret position as Master of Assassins to try and have Horus assassinated many times. He was never successful, the counterintelligence of the enemy being too strong, and he was finally ordered to stop by the Emperor, who knew only direct force would end the heresy. Malcador moved on to working with Leman Russ, trying to use his Knights Errant to kill Horus instead, using the recently recovered Garville Loken, former captain of the Sons of Horus, to lead this mission, which would finally fail unfortunately, although Loken would return to Terra. Malcador's ultimate project was to assemble 20 men and women, including 4 Lords or Administrators, and 8 warriors including Amendara Kendall of the Sisters of Silence, Ultramarine Tylos Rubio, former World Eater Mesa Varan, along with Garville Loken and Nathaniel Garrow. These recruits were assembled before the Emperor for him to examine, many of whom had been legionaries from traitor legions but had remained loyal to the Imperium. This was the culmination of the Emperor's earlier request for men and women of character, skill and determination. The 4 Lords or Administrators set up the framework that the Inquisition would later fall into, whilst the Marines and Sister were sent with Malcador to Titan, the largest of Saturn's moons. The moon had been protected from the heresy by Malcador's power, and the Marines found a fortress monastery there that had been prepared for them, filled with high-quality supplies and stocked with everything to create a small chapter-strong but powerful Space Marine fighting force. There was also many hundred potential recruits for this chapter gathered on the moon. Some were raw pre-teen recruits, others were veteran Marines to be used either as teachers or new knights. These recruits would be used to create a chapter, a close-knit brotherhood of Marines who would be able to combat the very worst of Chaos's forces. Malcador appointed Janus, who was one of the 8 Space Marines of the 20, to be the Supreme Grand Master of this chapter, although some do theorise that Janus was actually Alfarius in disguise. Finally, drawing on all his psychic might, Malcador decided to hide Titan, the whole moon, inside the warp, and protected it with runes and a massive macro Geller fields. This would keep the moon and the chapter safe whilst the heresy savaged the Imperium. The moon would not return until after the heresy was done and Malcador was dead years later, and far more time had passed in the warp by the order of several decades, and a full chapter 1,000 strong emerged from this fortress monastery, the Knights Errant no longer, but the Grey Knights, ready to fight the demons and serve the Imperium as the rock of the Inquisitional forces. Malcador returned to Terra after he had hidden Titan to finalise the defences, and was later present when Horus laid siege to the planet. Finally, when the Emperor had to leave the Golden Throne to confront Horus, only Malcador, with his great psychic might, could step in and use the throne's power to keep the damaged human webway closed, preventing demons from having access directly to the palace itself. However, the throne had been designed for either the Emperor or his son Magnus to use, both of whom wielded godlike psychic power, but with Magnus lost to chaos and the Emperor needing to fight Horus, only Malcador could do this task. He gladly stepped in, knowing the cost of doing so would be incredibly high, and he kept the gates closed whilst the Emperor fought his treacherous son. Finally, when the Emperor returned victorious but gravely injured and comatose from the battle, they found his friend and advisor wasted away on the throne, a shadow of his former self, drained of all energy and almost all life by the machinery, keeping the webway sealed as long as possible. As the tech priests removed Malcador to place the Emperor on the throne, the last flicker of life left Malcador, and he turned to dust, blowing across the floor of the throne room. The Emperor, at this final moment, woke from his coma, seeming to know Malcador's fate. Malcador somehow passed the last of his strength onto the Emperor, so he could awake and give his servants their last orders. The Emperor did so as he was interred, whilst renaming his lost servant Malcador the Hero for his great services to the Emperor and to humanity at large. Thus ended the story of the mysterious Malcador, a hero to the Imperium and possibly the Emperor's greatest friend. Well, that's everything I have to say on Malcador today. Thank you for watching, and if you have any comments, you can leave them in the comments section below. If you want to contact me personally, you can send me a personal message. Just so everybody knows, there'll be a new Dark Heresy session on the 19th, so come to Twitch and watch if you can. But otherwise, that's everything I have to say today. See you next time on the Vaults of Terra.